Architects Daily Pinup. I'm Nicole Walters, Director of Bespoke Architects, and I'm about to show you what inspiring architectural images made our Pinterest boards today. There was a lot of really nice bathrooms out there today, as well as some really quirky design detailing that, in individual projects looks amazing and certainly something to consider in any future project you might be contemplating. So let's launch straight into it. Top left today, quirky little, almost like an igloo sort of structure here, and I just pinned it because I really liked the curve and I really liked these shiny metallic discs that they'd used as cladding on the outside to sort of sexy up, I guess, the otherwise white rendered finish. So that's why that one is on the board. Next to that was a dressing table, so I've put that over on the makeup table section of our bathrooms board. We do see a bigger call for the sort of the dressing table or the makeup table, whether that be a walk-in robe space or a bedroom space or an ensuite space. I just really liked this little design. It sort of throws back up to me, certainly to the 1950s, whether it's that seating or the color tones of it, I'm not sure, but I just really liked that whole layout. The way it's in that little niche works really well for me. So that's why that one's on the board. And from that same company of Devon & Devon, this particular bathtub, I really just liked the corrugated sort of different textured base to this sort of solid freestanding bath. So that's why that one's on the board. The next one is from an apartment. It's a very small apartment, but I really liked the quirkiness of this apartment. I mean, it's just a hob bath, but I love the way that they've used this really bright orange sort of mosaic tile and then run it up the edge of the bath. I think that works really well. Interesting placement to run the vanity through into that bath space. And then we can see it is an actual wet area. We can see the glass for the shower at the end of that as well. So just a really sort of interesting compact bath. Really like the use of materials as well from that particular apartment. I loved this opening corner in this small study space, and the solid sort of panels that are sliding. I thought that was really beautiful. This is that same apartment, and their kitchen just had some really interesting material palettes, a lot of the concrete, lots of whites, the routed plywood handles looking wonderful. There was another shot of this kitchen from the dining side, and we can see that this little pass-through window has an LED strip lighting in it. I just thought it was a really quaint way to do it, and it's got joinery, as we can see, on the dining room side and on the kitchen side as well. So it just has some really quirky things to it. It also had this great little vanity, and what I thought was quirky about this was the placement of the mirror. Obviously, they've got a window right behind the vanity basin, and how do you then add a mirror to that? I have the same situation at home. I have a big window behind my vanity, and my mirror is, sort of on a 90-degree angle and 2 steps to my left, which I don't mind, but it does interrupt one's workflow at your vanity basin if you're required to step away. So how do you achieve that? And I thought that was an interesting solution. I also really liked the windows, these old school windows, the real depth that you get. Not sure how that's looking from the external, but from the internal, you get these almost like an old school phone box kind of feel, and the solid shutters that are open in this image, and then how you populate those little spaces and what they do at the end of a room like this. I just thought it was quirky, and I've put it on our openings and windows board today. Another one that went on our openings and windows boards was this little cabin. I just like the window within the window. I'm assuming that the small section in the middle is openable and the larger portion around it is fixed. And from that same project, I really liked the coloured doors in the facade of this. So it's all natural timber that's greying off lovely, and then they've got these pops of red and pops of turquoise blue there on the door frames themselves. I thought that was really lovely. I really just liked this alfresco sort of pool area. Obviously, it's not in Australia. If it was, we would in fact need a pool fence around that. But just a really nice way to integrate all those external spaces together. That's why that one is on the board. And then this little writer's shed. So this is obviously a project from some time ago. If you look at the images from the outside, it's got ivy growing all over it. And it's just a freestanding structure in a garden that's a workspace. And now that we've lived COVID and are still living the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdowns, and what does that mean, and how do you work from home, this is one solution that allows you to have a physical disconnection from your dwelling, which can be important for mental health, as well as creating that sort of separation between home life and work life. And just the amazing outlook. It's only a small space, she says, from her very small office, but I really did like it as a solution, and that's why it is on the board. The next apartment caught my eye. This was the image that I saw, and I really liked the sort of open steel joinery that acts as a room divider. And then here it is from a front on view, and we can actually see, again, it's another home office, and the way that they've used windows as a dividing wall to allow lighting, because obviously it doesn't have any natural light getting into that space. But then I really like the way that this open joinery sort of acts as that screen between the workspace and the living space. And we can see next to that is the kitchen, and we can see that the joinery palette is very different between those two spaces as well. So you've got your warm timbers in that sort of work zone, and then running down one wall of the kitchen, and then the other wall is quite white. So it does give a delineation of space quite nicely. The next little apartment that caught my eye, it was this really fabulous amount of texture that's happening around this sort of workspace or kitchen space. I really like the terrazzo look of that bench, the flutedness of the solid portion, the light fittings. I mean, all of it is very, very playful. We can see the actual working kitchen, which is behind these steel sliding doors over here. Again, really lovely, vibrant colors in that space, so it's inviting. And then we can see some more joinery over here. Not sure if that is a lounge room or a living room, but we can see a small workspace there that post-COVID is probably going to fall from the radar of many people as they request to have a more dedicated workspace like up here. But it does have the little desk and the shelving, and then some full height storage next to it. And just the textures, again, that are worked in to that palette. It's not just a plain sort of simple design. It has had texture put into it. It's got colors put into it. It just makes it that much more interesting. Another apartment that caught my eye, and it was the bathroom out of that. We can see that they've gone for a black toilet, but I really like the way that this vanity was done. It's that sort of solid marble look. And then we've got some shelving above, I'd say, by the way those mirrors are broken, but then in fact that the mirrors continue all the way behind the toilet, and then the way they've integrated lights into that. So that I just felt like was a really interesting vanity solution. The next house that caught my eye was, I'm just seeing where to start from, was this Melbourne house. I probably caught it from an external image. Yes, I did. It was that one there. I remember now. And I thought, wow, what a great pool area. It's even got a fence. So this is something that I can talk about that's actually relevant for Australia. But then when you deep dive into it, there's some beautiful like ribbing in the concrete that's lovely. There's this sort of overhanging seat. We can see it externally there and then internally here. I love the way that the pendant light in the kitchen spans across not only the kitchen island bench, but the thoroughfare, and then lights up that window seat. I found that to be a stunning lighting solution. Here it is front on here. We can see it spanning all the way from the full height cupboards where your fridge and stuff is, all the way across into that window opening. The island bench itself is beautiful. It's just solid and paneled. You're not sitting at that bench, assumably. If you want to socialize in that kitchen, you're sitting in the window seat. But just the curves that are on the corners of that, the material palette, the choice not to do overheads on that back wall, just to simply keep it all low shelving with some beautiful range hoods and bench top to ceiling tiling, and then this beautiful skylight directly above that sink. At the end of this image here, we can see there's actually a bit of a concealed workspace at the far end. It's got a second sink, and it appears to have a lot of natural light potentially from both sides, and just a concealed working area. So I just thought that was a really beautiful, elegant and simple kitchen. My only criticism would be I dislike these grills and the grill choice, not necessarily the fact that it needed a grill there for heating and cooling, just the choice of grill that runs across that bulkhead. I find a little bit not as well thought through. They could have lined up the vertical lines in that a little bit better, I feel. But that is my only criticism of that entire project, probably. Also from that project is the bathroom that we can see here. just the use of materials, that is such a huge return on that vanity bench. We can see the little drawer underneath. We can see some storage over here in the medicine shelf. The use of the concrete, the way it sort of wraps that material up, and as the splashback, the bench top, it rolls down and then it seems to appear again in the floor and up the walls as a tile skirt, and then we change over to the full tile. I just really liked that material palette in that one. Same project, totally different bathroom, totally different approach. We've gone for a white counter mount basin with these beautiful feature wall lights, and then this beautiful mirror above, and a really open timber vanity. It's quite a soft looking bathroom compared to this one, I would say, but love it equally as much. And then finally from that project is this image here, and what I really liked it's obviously a bar. I just really like the shape, the LED strip lighting. I just thought it was a beautiful warm feature to have there in the end of the lounge room. And again, it's about well detailed, well thought out joinery. It's not just let's put some open shelving in our lounge room, let's pick up the curves of the fireplace and play with that and then replicate it in our furniture. So I thought that was really, really lovely. The next image that caught my eye was this bathroom here. And again, there was some interesting things happening. There's a real strangeness happening over by the windows and how they've elected to do those doors. It sort of is recessed, or they've created a recess. It's quite interesting. But what I really liked was the marble that sort of wraps into the niche and then up the wall. And then we see it as the vanity countertop, and the vanity countertop has a solid end on it. And then it's got feet, a solid bath, and the same project. This is the kitchen, so we can see the same detailing done between the bathroom vanity and the kitchen backbench. We can see that the splashback again is the bench material wrapped up on edge. It projects past here. But what I really liked about this kitchen, aside from the soft color palette and the timber floors, which is something I have at home myself, is the fact that the kitchen is all elevated, which I also have at home myself. I like it, particularly if you're dealing with a heritage building and it feels like an installation. It doesn't feel like a permanent thing that's been added. I also find my robot vacuum can just run underneath all of those counters and clean up beautifully. So I just really like that as a light sort of installation into an existing building, which this clearly is. And then finally for today, from that same project, was their staircase. It was just a really solid timber staircase, but a really interesting tread detail. It shadow lines when it gets to the wall, and then we have this sort of solid skirt, which I do think you need on a white plasterboard wall for a staircase, particularly if it's a staircase with high use and that you're trying to carry furniture up and down on the regular. You know you're going to want that little bit of wall protection over at the end of the treads. So that's everything inspiring that's come in overnight. I will leave you with the latest image from Bespoke Derbyshire House number 4. This is the fireplace and chimney breast at the far end of the open plan living dining kitchen. Yesterday's image was the kitchen at the other end of this space. Loving the cathedral ceilings in this space. We created a beautiful horizontal line all the way around this house with the window heads. Just the way the furnishing's working. I mean, it's been beautifully furnished, but it is a lovely space to be in. It's not overly large, but it does feel much, much bigger than it is by having that beautiful cathedral ceiling. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. Until tomorrow, I'll see you then. Bye.